Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Joe, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Our Phillies podcast. Today, I am here with our newest mod on Reddit and admin on Discord. I'm here with owensdeck. How's it going, Owen?
Great to be here. Really excited to be on the show. It's kind of unfortunate after our game today that we lost by one run. I felt like we could have won that game, but yeah, I'm glad to be on here.
Glad to have you here. It is so true. I feel like so often the Phillies win the first two games in a series before they drop the third one, and that's exactly what happened today. Friday, Apple TV exclusive. They picked up a 12-5 win, 9-4 win on Saturday, and what was a really weird 1 o'clock Saturday game. Not sure about that. And then today, Sunday, 4-3 loss, but the power has been back quite a bit this series in general, which is good to see. But let's start, as we usually do, with starting pitching. And Taijuan Walker is looking pretty good. I know you're not really going to get a world beater out of him, right? But you got to feel pretty good about what he did. Pretty good start. And what do you think about Taijuan Walker, Owen?
I feel like he's actually doing a really good job eating innings. After last year when he had the ERA over 7, I was ready to cut him. I didn't think he should be brought back to the team this year. To me, I thought that he was completely harmful to the team, but then he's kind of came back. He's done a pretty good job earlier in the year as a bullpen, as a relief role, occasionally getting into pitching 2 or 3 innings as kind of a long man. And then assuming we're going to trade Mick Abel at the deadline, we sent Mick Abel back to Lehigh Valley, and Walker came up to take his spot. And I feel like he's done a really good job, at least as much as we can expect from him in that role.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Taijuan Walker's been through a lot as a Philly. They've kind of moved him around a lot. He's been disappointing at times, serviceable at other times, but he's never really complained publicly about it, which is something you got to appreciate. And since they put him back into the starting rotation, he went 4 innings, 1 run, and then he went 4 innings, 3 runs, and then 5.2 innings, 3 runs this last time. So 3 okay enough starts, even if the length isn't all the way back there yet. And the question I have for you, Owen, is I'm just curious if you think that contract is tradable at this point, number one, without eating all of the contract. And number two, would you trade Taijuan Walker just to get out of that money, even with it sacrificing the starting pitching depth a little bit?
I think at this point, we're not going to recover a lot of money. I think best case scenario is a team would take on 50% of the contract and maybe give us some return to get some starting pitching. Because a lot of teams are looking for starting pitching. The Diamondbacks are one team that badly needs starting pitching. So I think we could trade him if it's an option for us. But I don't think we want to look at Taijuan Walker like a contract dump, especially not when we're in a position where we want to win. So I think if it's a move that makes sense for us, I'm okay trading him. I think we could dump some of the contract. I really don't like the idea of a contract dump right now, especially when we're getting near the end of his contract and we're having him as one of our 5 starters in a year where we're really wanting to try to actually push for the World Series this year. To me, that's just a move that doesn't necessarily make sense unless it really works with the trade and the player that we're actually actively going after.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to eat all of it. I would consider eating up to half of it, though. And interestingly enough, I think that one of Taijuan Walker's former teams, the New York Mets, could be a team that has a fit here. Not that you really see the interdivisional trades all that much. But some of the bench pieces on the Mets, like a Luis Angel Acuna, I wonder if he could get something out of him because his value's kind of dropped this year. Same with Vientos. Mark Vientos, his value is kind of in the dumps. And if we could eat some of the money on Taijuan Walker and get one of those bench pieces back, I would be pretty open to that personally. But I'm with you. You got pretty much a year and a third left on that contract. $18 million due next year, and about 6 left for this year. So it's almost done. We're almost out of the Taijuan Walker contract.
Do you think that if Mick Abel doesn't get traded at the trade deadline, and I've been operating under the assumption that he will, but do you think if he doesn't, that the Phillies will look at Abel and say we're going to bring him back up as the 5th starter, or do you think that they're pretty solidified on keeping Walker as the 5th starter?
I feel like Taijuan Walker is the opposite of solidified. I feel like they're doing it out of obligation right now, and they're just waiting for probably what they feel is the inevitable Taijuan Walker blow up, and then they can be okay, it's time to move you out again. But his ERA this year is below 4, and that's with him moving around positions all the time. I respect so much what he's done this year.
He's been excellent in the long man eating innings role. I really never really envisioned him as that kind of guy, but like Joe Ross has been awful. And when we signed Joe Ross, I thought he was going to be kind of a good long man who was going to be able to eat innings, and he really hasn't been that at all. So I think that Taijuan Walker's really done kind of an excellent job, kind of keeping the game stable when our starters have been needed to be pulled early.
Absolutely. And one interesting thing about Joe Ross, he's due to come off of the injured list, I believe, on either the same day or almost the exact day that David Robertson has to be in the major leagues. So I wonder if the Phillies are setting up for, adding David Robertson to the active roster and DFAing Joe Ross at the same time. Just a little peculiar that that works out so well. But starting pitchers that are better than Taijuan Walker, Zach Wheeler. He took the loss today in what was his third shaky start in a row. And I feel like the command is really where he struggled. No matter where JT was setting up, the ball just wasn't getting there today. And do you have any kind of concern about Zach Wheeler now after three starts in a row, straddling the All-Star break, just not really being up to what you expect out of him?
I would say that my level of concern with Zach Wheeler right now is pretty much a zero. You know, I feel like that there's a lot of reactionary actions in terms of pitchers like Wheeler when he has like one kind of bad start and everyone is like, oh no, this is going to be the end. He's not going to win the Cy Young anymore. And to me, I just don't see it because like all of the runs he allowed today were in one inning. It was a shaky inning. He hit a few batters, but the double that was hit that scored 2 runs was right down the foul line, a few inches and that's foul, and he probably has a quality start today. So to me, I feel like Zach Wheeler is a mostly stable guy. He had one bad inning. I'm not that worried about it. His ERA on the year is still 2.50, and everyone has a bad game here and there. And to me, this is just an ideal stretch for him. I really don't see it being a major problem heading down for the rest of the year. I'm assuming he's going to get back on track in his next start, which is scheduled to be against the Tigers, who have been an insane downward slope since the All-Star break. So that should
Good
be
point.
a pretty good bounce back start for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and even when you look at these last three starts, they're not all that bad. It was six innings, 4 runs today, or that was 3 starts ago in San Diego. Today it was 5 2/3, 4 runs, and then his last start he was 6 innings, 2 runs. So even in these quote unquote bad starts, he's still giving you innings, he's still giving you strikeouts, and you got to feel pretty good about that. Zach Wheeler is just like such a joy to watch, and I'm gonna miss him so much when he's done after 2027.
Completely, yeah. And the strikeouts is a good thing that you mentioned there because he did have 24 total Ks in those 3 starts. So to me, that signals that maybe it's just a little bit more bad luck or maybe a bad inning here or there than there being actually any underlying issues. Because even today, it's like he came out there, he was striking guys out. He looked mostly good other than in the fourth inning where he really just lost his control for a little bit there and had some bad luck hits and some bloopers that got in there. So to me, again, I'm just not really worried about Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, I'm with you. And overall, the starting pitching for this team is really good. I was doing like some research earlier today, just kind of trying to see how they've been over the course of the year, because it hasn't felt smooth recently with the starters, with maybe the exception of like Chris Sanchez, who's feels like he's just like locked down every single time he steps on the mound. Things haven't felt easy for Ranger Suarez or Zach Wheeler or Jesus Luzardo recently. But believe it or not, ever since June 1st, the Phillies actually have the number one ERA out of their starting pitchers this year. Overall, when you go for the whole season, they have the fifth lowest ERA, just behind the Rangers, Brewers, Mets, and Royals. But all year long, they've been leading in FIP, which maybe says something about the Phillies' defense. But how would you rank like the starting pitchers right now if you were heading into the postseason? Like, who would you give the ball? Game 1, 2, 3, and 4.
1 and 2 are going to obviously be Wheeler and Sanchez. I mean, Sanchez has been incredible this year. He hasn't had a single start with more than 3 runs allowed. In most of his starts, it seems like he's been at 1 or 2, and he's going 6, 7, 8 innings. The last start, he pitched a complete game. He went 9 innings with only allowing 1 run. He's been completely dominant this year. Both he and Wheeler, to me, stand a really good chance of winning the Cy Young this year. So to me, they're the pretty obvious 1 and 2. I think just based on experience, Wheeler's going to get the game 1 start. I mean, that's just kind of how it's going to go, regardless of if Sanchez ends up having a better year. I think for number 3, I think it depends on what happens with Aaron Nola. So for me, like right now, with the rotation as is right now, number 3 is Suarez. But I'm assuming that they're going to put Nola at number 3. And I'm not, like, I know his ERA has been over 6 this year, but that was highly inflated due to his last start when he got injured. So I almost kind of want to throw that one under the rug and like take a mulligan on it. And I really think you have to say Nola's going to be your number three and Suarez is probably going to be your number four. And then I would move Jesus Luzardo to the pen. I think he has great stuff. And I know that he's had some problems pitching out of the stretch, but ultimately I think that he could be a really good kind of firearm at the back end of the bullpen who could kind of give us some of that extra bullpen help that we have been needing.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right with you on all of that. I'm really excited for when Aaron Nola is going to come back, and we're going to get into that a little bit more later on. But I have some high hopes for him. And I'm with you. Wheeler's got to be number one just because of the expertise he has there. Even though I actually think Sanchez might be a little bit better than Wheeler. Like I think I'm a little more confident with Sanchez on the mound than Wheeler. Put him in number two. I think he got like a decent sized drop off after that. But I would probably put Ranger 3 right now, and I plan on Nola being 4. And I think that you just can't really start Jesus Luzardo in the postseason unless, he takes like a phantom IL stint for a couple weeks and comes back and looks like he did in April again, which I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, the stuff still looks really good. It's just from the stretch that he's been struggling.
I could see using Jesus Luzardo and Ranger Suarez in kind of a tandem, let them each go 3 or 4 innings and just kind of use that as your fourth starter. I think that could work because I know we've also been worrying about kind of managing Rangers' workload and Luzardo's. So I think that for in the playoffs, that could be interesting if they wanted to give them both kind of like half a start and kind of go with a tandem start. What do you think about that?
I like that a lot. I think that's pretty cool. One thing that hasn't been discussed a ton, but I think the Phillies should at least consider, be creative about their thinking, is they should not preclude themselves from trading for a starting pitcher. The market for relief pitchers seems really, really heavy. With Clase, Duran, there's a couple tough teams to trade with in the Guardians and the Twins. You can trade for a starting pitcher and then just move your current starting pitchers into the bullpen and backfill the bullpen that way. I don't hate the idea. I've always been a big fan about piggybacking. I had like a whole episode about piggybacking earlier on in this podcast series, and I think that that's a really good idea. So, like you said, manage the innings, keep people fresh. Because I'm kind of at the point now where I'm starting to just kind of want October to be here. I'm still watching, every game, but I can't say that I care as much as I did early in the year at this point about every single game.
I definitely feel like that this isn't a team that's kind of on the edge. It's like the playoffs feel inevitable for this team. So now it's almost like we're just playing setup. It's what position are we going to be in heading into the playoffs, and how are we going to approach the playoffs? It's almost like now when we're looking at the team, it's not how are we going to do in the regular season. It's okay. This is a playoff team. How do we take this to the World Series? And so I think that we should approach the bullpen that way. I'm not opposed to getting a starter. I haven't looked too much at the starter market because I've been really focused on the bullpen, but to me, if you're going after a starter, it really has to be a guy that you have a lot of confidence in. I don't really want to go after a number 5 guy who might end up not being that good. Like I don't want to go after another Taijuan Walker. If we're going to go after a starter, I want to go after somebody who's going to be like a solidified number 3 for us, who's going to be ace level or approaching that, where we can say this is a guy who's going to actually actively help us win instead of just being another back end innings eater kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy I have in my head right now for a starting pitcher, because apparently the Padres are shopping this guy, is Dylan Cease. I don't know what a Dylan Cease rental would cost you. Probably quite a bit, but it is a rental, and rentals don't usually go for the world. And I would at least call up the Padres. They love making trades, and seeing how much it would cost. Like in a hypothetical, would you trade, say, Justin Crawford and Mick Abel for Dylan Cease?
I think that's an interesting proposition. I would have to think more about that because, like, to me, I think generally speaking, prospects have a really low percentage of panning out. And a guy like Dylan Cease has been around for a while. He's proved that he's a very, very capable starting pitcher. So, I would have a hard time trading, I think, 2 of our top prospects just because I think we need help elsewhere too. But I think that if we got a good bat with other prospects, if maybe we brought in a bullpen guy, I would definitely be willing to look at a move that would give us Dylan Cease. Because who did they offer him for? Yeah, I remember reading earlier that the Padres offered Dylan Cease and one of their top prospects. I believe it was a top 20 MLB prospect for the Red Sox, Jarren Duran. So I think that he's definitely someone that they are willing to trade. So I think that maybe going after him if we could get him, like, I don't want to say on the cheap because I don't think he'll be cheap, but if we can get him at a good deal and not overpriced, I think I would definitely be willing to look into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was Ethan Salas, the catcher that the Padres had in that deal.
Yes,
I'm
that's what it was.
remembering that now. So yeah, that would be an interesting avenue to go by. And now talk about the offense a little bit. The first thing that stands out to me is Remuto is just like insanely hot right now, man. I mean, ever since July, he's OPSing 952. This series, 5 of 14, had a walk in there. But more importantly, he hit a home run and 4 RBIs. And all of a sudden, JT Remuto looks like he's like 5 years younger again. I mean, this is just incredible to watch right now.
He's been on fire. I mean, I want to call him the BCIB now, but it's like I feel like you can't do that with Cal Raleigh and how insane he's been this year. But I do think that Real Muto is one of the best catchers in the league. Honestly, I would still say he's easily top 5 because he has excellent pop time. His defense is excellent. Like the catch that he made today when he just completely like jumped like 10 feet up in the air to catch that ball from Rojas. It's like no catcher is making that play. He just has elite athleticism, off the charts for his position. Like there's no catcher that you could just put in center. Okay, maybe Dalton Varsho, but no other catcher that you could just put in center field. Like I feel like his athleticism is just completely off the charts, especially for the position of catcher.
Absolutely. And the thing with JT too is if they do go to ABS, which, we have differing opinions about ABS, a lot of people do, all of a sudden the framing that Remuto has, which is questionable and probably the weakest part of his defensive game, it doesn't matter all that much anymore. Like Real Muto to me is somebody that I've warmed up to a lot on the idea of an extension, even before this hot streak, just because it seems like he wants to stay here. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a super long-term or super expensive contract, and he just feels like a pillar, and the pitchers like throwing to him so much that it just feels like the wise thing to do to bring him back.
I totally agree. And in 2023, he had second percentile framing. So definitely not his strongest area of defense. It feels like that he's completely at the very top at every other level, but he just doesn't frame balls very well. I'm not exactly sure what the reason for that is. Maybe that he's not this newer age version of catcher that's used to just grabbing the ball and putting it in the center of the plate. I don't know exactly how StatCasts values the framing, but definitely just like watching him and giving him the eye test, his framing is definitely not exactly where you would like it to be. And it seems like that the Phillies pitchers get fewer calls based on the fact that he doesn't frame balls well.
Right. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that, but, ABS could change that a lot big time. Kind of just like how when the DH kind of saved the Phillies in 2022 because it allowed Harper to play. ABS could extend Real Muto's career quite a little bit. The next guy that's been pretty hot, had a great game today, first 2 home run game in the major leagues, is Otto Kemp. He has left, a decent impression, I think, since he's been up. And what exactly do you think about Otto Kemp right now? Do you think he sticks with the team for the rest of the year? Do you think that he could maybe be a trade piece to, get maybe some bullpen help back? Like, what do you think about Otto Kemp and his, medium to long-term future on the team?
I think, at least for this year, I think his positional versatility makes him like a perfect 10th man up. I think that he's a perfect replacement if somebody goes down. Like, for example, Bohm's down, he's playing third. If we get an outfielder down, he can play left. He can play right. I think his positional versatility makes him the perfect replacement for guys when they get off days. It makes them the perfect injury replacement. He's had a pretty hot bat this year overall. He has an OPS in the mid 700s. To me, he's just a perfect 10th man. And I wouldn't be opposed to trading him. I'm not really sure exactly how much value he would carry. At this point, I think he's just kind of a perfect bench bat and starting occasionally and kind of giving us a little bit of pop and pretty much solid defense at most positions he's played this year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, the strikeouts are the big problem with him. 35 strikeouts and 112 at-bats. Not great, but when he does hit the ball, it goes flying, and you saw that a little bit today. I'm with you. Like, I probably would rather hold on to Otto Kemp just because you got the control, you got the options, like, to me, there's no real reason to trade him, and his value is probably limited. But he's making a case to stay on the team, and he's done a really good job at filling in. And the next point that I really wanted to get to, because we're in the middle of this stretch where we're playing 7 straight interleague series, which is unbelievable. But I wanted to get your take on this. I think that the National League is just straight up a lot better than the American League this year. If you want to care, the National League won the All-Star game. I don't know how much that matters, but not much. But overall, I think you look at the top teams in the league, and the National League teams just seem better. I pulled up the main contenders in each league and brought up their interleague records. The Yankees against the National League are 20-19. The Tigers 17-16. The Astros are 23-13, so they've actually been quite good. The Blue Jays have also been quite good at 18-9 against the National League. And meanwhile, you look at the National League top contenders. The Dodgers are 19-14 against the American League. The Mets 19-17. The Phillies 16-11, and will probably get a little bit better there after the White Sox series. Cubs 22-14, and the Brewers 23-16. So, the AL has the better highs, but also the lower lows. What's your take on the whole American League versus National League thing this year?
I think maybe a couple weeks ago I might have had a different take, but the Yankees and the Tigers, especially the Tigers, have just been in a major tailspin. The Tigers are 2-8 in their last 10. They were previously they had the best record, and not just the best record in the AL, they had the best record in the major leagues. And I don't know what's happened to the Tigers, but they've just been losing almost every game. They won earlier today, 10-0, I believe, if that hasn't changed in the ninth inning, but I don't know what's happened to the Tigers. The Yankees have been going downwards, and I think that those were the two top teams in the AL. So I think that with them falling off, I think you almost have to say that the National League is the much stronger league right now. I mean, I don't know who you would try to argue is the most strong team in the AL. I mean, I guess record-wise, it's the Toronto Blue Jays, but I, I don't know if I think that I would say that the Blue Jays are even anywhere close to where the Dodgers are, or even where we are, even if their record is technically better than ours. I, I don't know. I feel like the Blue Jays have had an easier schedule, and I feel like that. I don't know. I don't feel like that they're as strong of a team as even the Tigers or the Yankees are, despite their records.
Yeah, I'm with you. The American League teams, to me, it's kind of hard to sort out, especially now with the Judge going down. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a super long-term thing, but that's still going to have an impact on the Yankees and the whole American League. I would much rather be an American League team, going through those teams in the playoffs rather than the National League, where it feels like everybody's just a juggernaut. And let's get into that National League playoff picture just a little bit here. The Phillies are currently one back of the Mets. Like I was saying, the Mets due to play Sunday Night Baseball, so that could change a little bit tonight. And the Phillies are currently that number 2 wild card, going to either Milwaukee or Chicago, depending on how that tiebreaker would work out. But I think you got 5 teams in the National League that are pretty set in their playoff position. And the Mets, the Phillies, Cubs, the Brewers, and the Dodgers, they're in great spots. And you really have the teams like the Padres, the Reds, the Giants, and the Cardinals all fighting for that last spot. And I guess now's the point where you really have to start thinking about positioning. Obviously, you'd rather have the home advantage and play these teams, with home field advantage. But are there any National League teams that really scare you more than any others, or any that you think would be a particularly good matchup for the Phillies come the postseason?
I mean, I think the worst matchup is just going to be the Dodgers. Like, the Dodgers are even injured, and they're still playing like the Dodgers have just bought this incredibly maxed out team at every position. They're throwing money around like they don't have any. And to me, the Dodgers are the scariest team in the NL, even if they don't have the best record. Like, I understand that the Cubs have a better record than the Dodgers. I understand that the Brewers have a better record than the Dodgers. And we were talking about the Brewers just earlier today, and that they've actually scored more runs than us. But when I was looking at their lineups for the past few days, they don't have a hitter in their starting lineup right now above 800 OPS.
Shocked me.
So I just don't feel like that the Brewers are like that scary of a team. Like, they have great starting pitching. That's going to help them in the playoffs. But ultimately, like, I think the Brewers are beatable. I think the Cubs are beatable. I think the Dodgers are beatable too, but I think just in terms of like how strong their lineups are and how strong their pitching are, it's like, to me, the Dodgers are probably the most scary NL team. I feel like the Mets, and maybe this is just my bias as a Phillies fan, I feel like the Mets are a little bit fraudulent and that they've been dealing with so many injuries. And I feel like that they're barely holding it together, and their starting rotation is just so barren right now with half or more of them on the IL. So I'm like, I don't know if the Mets are a major concern for me right now. I really do believe that we're going to win this division, despite the fact that we're 1 game back right now. So I think that will be interesting to see how exactly that pans out, and whether or not they win tonight will probably give us a little bit more insight into that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point with the division. The Mets have the 5th hardest schedule for the rest of the season. The Phillies have the 19th, so quite a big strength of schedule difference there between the Mets and the Phillies. And I agree with you on some of those teams that you want to avoid. I have absolutely no interest in playing the Dodgers. I don't want the Phillies to go out west if they don't have to. And I think the Dodgers probably have the best potential if they get guys back and they play as they should. Just I don't want it. I am quite scared of the Brewers, just because good pitching feels like it really shuts down the Phillies quite a bit. That pitching lab is just something else in Milwaukee. And then I know this is a team that's more likely than not going to make the playoffs. But I have absolutely no desire to see the Phillies go to San Francisco and have to win a series there. That just terrifies me. But I'm with you. The Mets don't really scare me this year. I know that the Phillies lost to them in the divisional series last year, but I think that things are a little bit different this year. The Cubs, their pitching just kind of doesn't really overwhelm me in any way. So give me the Mets, give me the Cubs, and I'd rather not play the Dodgers, Brewers, and Giants.
I totally agree. I also just kind of think that the Phillies in general have a tendency to play up to good teams and play down to bad teams. So it's like I feel like that we could go into Pittsburgh, lose to the Pirates, then come back and beat the Dodgers, and there would be no explanation for it. But sometimes I just feel like that's how things go with this team.
Felt that way for years, and it's kind of one of the funny bits about this team. It's just kind of never really knowing what to expect and knowing that they can win or lose to anybody. But I guess it does make the games fun to watch.
For sure.
So next little piece of news. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that like as far as whoever I would want to play in the AL, like if we're thinking in terms of if we make the World Series, I really think that there's no one, like you mentioned earlier, I think that there's no one in the AL I'm that concerned about. Like it would have been the Yankees. We've kind of routed them these last 3 games. They won one game that really felt like that it should have been a win for us. We had some bad luck. We had 2 balls to the warning track that could have been home runs that would have completely changed things. The Tigers have fallen off. And for me, the Toronto Blue Jays, who are the strongest team in the AL right now, really don't concern me that much. So I think that the NL is much stronger, and if we can push through the first couple series, I think we will be in a really good position.
Yeah, just to take a minute to talk about that American League playoff picture. Right now, the Blue Jays are your 1 seed. Your number 2 seed with the other bye would be the Tigers, and I'm with you. Not really too terrified of any of those teams. And you currently have the Astros, who would be the 3 seed, winning the American League West. And then your wild cards right now would be the Yankees as the 1 wild card, Mariners as the number 2, and the Red Sox as the number 3. But Rangers from Texas are only half a game behind. So the American League West actually is a pretty decent division this year. But one other piece of news that we do have real quickly, the Phillies were able to sign 19 of their 20 draftees this year, including Matthew Fisher in the 7th round. I'm sure the Mattingly connection, them being from the same town, didn't hurt there. But you have any strong opinions about any of the guys that the Phillies drafted this year?
I'm really excited for Gabe Wood. I think that he's one of the guys who projects to be just again with this entire with I feel like with our prospects, we just have been doing a really good job getting starters recently. Andrew Painter is an obvious one. Mick Abel is a guy who I think I have a lot more faith in than I feel like most people in the Philadelphia Phillies community and sub-communities do, because I actually think Abel has, other than one bad start, I think Abel has generally been very good when he came up with us at the majors this year. So I really think that going after starters has been something that this team has done really well with, and I think that was a really good pick. I think he fell a little bit more than I was expecting him to, so I think that was I think that he's the guy that I'm the most excited for in terms of who we got. How about you?
Yeah, no, I think Gage Wood is super exciting. I listened to the High Hopes podcast last night where they had Brian Barber, the Phillies scouting director, I think vice president of scouting now, on the podcast, and he talked a little bit about Gage Wood. And he did not completely shut down the idea of him playing in the major leagues this year. I'm not going to fool myself into thinking that it's a likely thing that's going to happen, but it sounds like Gage Wood is going to be on his way to Clearwater pretty soon, play there, and then they're planning to take him to Reading after that season ends because it's a short season in Clearwater. And we'll see what happens after that. But just to draft somebody that's so close, theoretically, to Major League ready is just exciting to me. I'm a bigger fan of college draft picks just because of that. And when you look at, draft by draft, generally high schoolers don't have that much better production on average than college guys, and college guys just get there sooner.
I think it's just in terms of like panning out and risk. Like I feel like if you're going after a high school guy, you're going after big talent, you're taking a bigger risk. And for me, generally, I feel like prospects come with a lot of risk already. I feel like guys who are able to come into college and produce, it's an environment that's much closer to the major leagues, to the minor leagues. I feel like it's a much more major league ready environment, and it crosses over much better. So for me, like I feel like unless guys are completely off the charts talents, where you can look at them and say, this guy is a freak athlete, he is going to be a star player, I'm really not usually a fan on taking high school guys because I feel like that the risk is just higher there because I feel like that the level of competition in high school is just not the same as what it is in college.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you there. And one other good piece of news that we have from the last few days is Aaron Nola is going to be rehabbing very soon. He's going to be assigned to the Iron Pigs, and he's going to make a start in Worcester, going against the Red Sox affiliate up in Massachusetts on Thursday. Pretty interesting. Maybe I'm the only person that cares about this, but usually you see rehab assignments, given to one of the Phillies affiliates as a way to reward them. It's a good game for them to sell a lot of tickets to. But both the Iron Pigs and the Reading Phils are away that week, and I guess they don't want to send Aaron Nola down to Clearwater or Jersey Shore. So they're putting him on the road, which is going to be really interesting. I feel like I don't remember the last time that happened. But the plan seems like it's going to be 3 starts for Aaron Nola, and then he'll be in the majors. So you think Thursday, then the following Wednesday, and the following Tuesday. We're probably like 2 or 3 weeks away from Aaron Nola being back, which is really exciting.
Definitely, and I agree. And I think that one thing with Aaron Nola is I really want to see this team kind of take it slow in terms of the rehab process because I think we're really in a good position right now with our starters. And I would hate to see us try to rush him and get him back when we have 5 starters who are pitching innings, we're winning games. I don't think Aaron Nola is a huge need for this team right now, so I want to see him get back to 100%, come back and join this team where he can actually produce and actually help us win ball games, rather than running back, get injured, and potentially risk not having him in the playoffs, which is where I think that this team needs to be specifically focusing on right now, is what is our playoff roster going to be.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And Aaron Nola, to me, I can't help but be really excited at seeing what a rested Aaron Nola looks like. I mean, here's a guy that probably has some of the most innings pitched in the majors since 2015 or 2016. And to get him after, having so much rest on his arm, I feel like we could get a really nice throwback Aaron Nola when he comes back.
Yeah, I'm really not that worried about Nola. I know that there's a lot of concern over Nola and that he hasn't been quite as good as he has been in his prime in the past few years. He didn't have a great start to the season, but again, and I said this earlier in the podcast, his last start he gave up a bunch of runs, he jacked up his ERA, but that was the same start that he got injured in. So to me, I'm really just not that worried about him. I think that he's a quality pitcher. I think that he's going to figure it out, and he's never been a big velocity guy. So I think that in terms of stuff, it doesn't matter if his fastball isn't in the high 90s because he was never a high 90s guy. He was always a location guy. He was a knuckle curve guy. He was a guy that would get swings and misses on the off-speed stuff. So to me, I don't think he has to come in and blow everyone away. I think that he just has to locate, and I think that he can do that. So I'm really just not that concerned about Aaron Nola, generally speaking.
I'm with you. I actually just looked up the MLB innings pitched leaders since 2016. Aaron Nola is number 2 on that list. Do you want to take a stab at guessing anybody else in the top 5?
Patrick Corbin?
Patrick Corbin's number 1. That's a good call.
I don't know who else I would put on there. I mean, I feel like that a lot of the top guys have been injured. I wouldn't put Wheeler on there. Wheeler may be on there, but I feel like Wheeler's been injured off and on a lot. So I would guess that he's close, but I would guess he's just outside of the top 10.
It's a great call. He's number 8.
Yeah, there you go. And I feel like that there have been, Corbin Burns has been off and on injured. He's probably not going to be close.
He's not that close, no. Got a couple, one Yankee on that list and a couple Blue Jays. Let's see if that helps you out at all.
So not Scherzer, Berrios maybe?
Yep, Berrios is number 4.
I guess maybe Max Fried. No, Max Fried didn't pitch a lot last year.
Not Max Fried. I'll give you the last 2. Garrett Cole, number 5, even with that Tommy John recovery, which is actually pretty crazy.
I'm actually shocked Garrett Cole is on there. I feel like Garrett Cole has missed a lot of baseball. Not just this year, but I feel like he missed a lot last year too.
And Kevin Gausman is number 3 on that list, so that makes up your top 5. Corbin, Nola, Gausman, Berrios, and Cole. It's not a bad rotation. So fun stuff there. But Aaron Nola, I mean, that Rouse has got to be doing wonders for his arm after all those innings pitched. So yeah, that's all the news we have, and let's get into a few listener questions. For anybody that does have any questions, send them along to me on Reddit, send them through ModMail, send them to me personally, or put them in our Discord server and put them in the podcast channel. We get to all of them every episode, so it's a good place to be if you want to connect with other fans of the show. So first question we got is from Coaster Craze on Discord, and I'll give this one to you first, Owen. Who are our untouchables?
I think as far as what the team said, I see there being 0% chance that we trade Andrew Painter. And I know that there have been some people who said, oh, well, maybe we could trade Andrew Painter if we get this guy. I think Andrew Painter is entirely untouchable. I think that any conversation open with Painter, the conversation's dead. I don't think it matters who we're getting. I think Andrew Painter is completely off limits. I think the next one up is Miller. I think we could trade Miller depending on who we get, but I think it's a very, very low chance. Like I think it's like maybe like a 1 or a 2% chance. Like unless it's a dream trade where we're getting someone who would absolutely help this team and a top guy, I think we're not trading Miller. I think in terms of anyone else, I feel like Escobar is probably the next guy who I'd say is probably the least likely to be traded, but I really wouldn't be surprised if we did trade Escobar. So to me, it's the main two untouchables are going to be Painter and Miller, and I would be shocked if either of them are traded.
With you, I don't like the term untouchable because hey, if I get a Shohei Ohtani for Aiden Miller trade or Andrew Painter, like I'm taking that, but I think that I'm with you that those are the two guys that are least likely to get traded. But if I had to pick one, Miller's probably just a little bit more likely. The one thing, this is me off in crazy land here, but the Braves should probably consider trading Ronald Acuna Jr. He has one more year of control than Juan Soto did when Juan Soto was traded from the Nationals. And the Braves have a farm system that is terrible. We're talking bottom 3 farm systems in the league. And they could theoretically revitalize that farm system with one trade. Hypothetically, we're going to go into a lot of trade deadline stuff on Tuesday in our full trade deadline preview episode. But would you give up our top 5 prospects? So you got Justin Crawford, Andrew Painter, you got Eduardo Tait in there, you have Mick Abel in there, and you have Andrew Painter in there, in Miller. Those are your top 5. Would you trade all 5 of those guys for Ronald Acuna Jr.?
For Acuna, absolutely.
I would too.
There's 0% chance that the Braves trade Acuna.
I also think there's a 0% chance, but I think they should consider it. If I was GMing the Braves, with how upset he's been in Atlanta and at Brian Snitker, I would at least call him and see if there's anything there, because I would give up so much for that guy. Put him in the outfield. Oh my God, I'd love it.
I mean, that would be. I was going to say that would be an insane lineup addition. Like I feel like that we already have like 2 guys who are absolutely insane power in terms of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, and if you add Acuna to that, I feel like that would just be like we're talking Dodgers level power overload.
That would be unbelievable to watch. Probably putting him in center field. I wonder if he can play center field still that well. I think he still can. Put him in center field, and then you don't have to see Marsh in center anymore. You can put him over to the left, and I'd love it. I'd be all for it. And we got a couple questions from Blandzilla on Discord as well. So the first one is, why did Sosa's catch count when the guy who crashed into the wall and the ball came loose didn't? So Edmundo Sosa was hurt and Marsh came into him. At first, that was ruled as not being a catch because kind of threw his glove and the ball rolled out of his glove. But on review, they said that he did have control and the catch counted. But I think where Blandzilla is going on this is all the time you see people who have the ball in their gloves, they hit the wall, it drops out, and that's a live ball. So what do you think really is a catch? I feel like this is like the Des Bryant NFL discussion of a decade ago.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. I think it's one of those things where they don't have like a set standard on how long you have to possess the ball. They don't really have a lot of set standards. It's just kind of a wing it thing. Like it's a catch, when you see it. I feel like when I saw that play, like it was pretty obviously a catch. It was pretty obvious that he had possession of the ball and that after he'd made the catch, the glove and the ball came out. So I think with some, when you have some 50-50 ones, it ends up just being whatever's called on the field. And I don't know if there's a lot that you can do about that. I don't know if the MLB wants to try to answer that question more distinctly. Like I think that they're happy with how it is. So honestly, I think it's just a thing of there isn't a set timeline. There isn't any completely set distinctive. Here are the rules. Here is how we're going to apply them. It feels like it's a lot more just kind of the eye test. Was that a catch or was it not?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel like that probably should be better defined, but we all know how difficult it is to define what a catch is in sports. Are there any rules that you particularly dislike in baseball?
If I had to open up with a more recent one, I would say that the way that the pitch clock is implemented really bothers me. And it's not the pitch clock itself, but I feel like that when you have violations, instead of instantly becoming a strike or a ball, hitters have the ability to take one timeout. I feel like that the violation should first charge them their timeout before just giving them a strike, because I really don't like the automatically charged strike for violations, because it just feels very anti-baseball to me. It feels like the game, like I like the games being faster, but I feel like you're speeding them up a little bit too much. And I don't really see why that couldn't just be charged as a violation, because it doesn't really hurt the time anymore than if they had actually stepped outside of the box and taken their time out.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I am like you, like I'm a fan of the pitch clock, but it does feel like it can be a little bit anticlimactic when like a at bat ends because of pitch clock violation. Not that you see it all that often, but I feel like you see it just enough to always remember that it's there.
For sure.
I can point to a couple quick ones that I'll talk about. There is nothing anybody can do to ever make me like the DH. The furthest I will go is the double hook DH, where if you have a starting pitcher in the game still, you get the DH, and then as soon as you pull out your starting pitcher, then you don't have a DH anymore. That would introduce a lot of the strategy of like double switching and everything back, and I'd be all for it. I'm also not a fan of the ghost runner in extra innings. That's another thing. Like I guess in the regular season, you know, it's not the end of the world, but it's not real baseball to me. And a couple other ones that have just always kind of bothered me are the way that balls, infield balls, like ground balls, are handled. Number one, a ball that goes foul and then the ball spinning to take it back fair, and it turns fair before it hits, the base, third or first base. I believe that's considered a fair ball right now, according to the baseball rules, which just seems
Right.
weird
Yeah.
to me. I don't like that. If the ball's foul, call it foul. And then number two that just bugs me is the like subjectivity to a line drive, and if it's above the base, it's a fair ball, even if it ends up bouncing for the first time in foul territory. Like to me, just get rid of that subjectivity. Like if a ball is hidden, above the base, but it hits out of the play before it goes fair, just call it a foul ball. Like it's not the end of the world. I don't want these umpires to have the subjectivity of making that call that it feels like, number one, who knows if they get it right because there's never a good camera angle, and number two, it's just the most frustrating thing when it does feel like they called it the wrong way.
Well, those aren't calls that can be reversible. The foul fair balls are always immediately on the spot and they can't be reversed. So those are some of the things that I feel like that there have been some close games that have been decided by incorrect foul fair balls, which is a really tough way to have a game decided for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you there. And the next question that we got from Blandzilla is, why is Austin Hayes good again? And I think the real question that Bland is getting to here is the Phillies had the opportunity to bring Austin Hayes back. He had 1 year left for arbitration. I believe he was going to get getting paid like 10 or 12 million or something like that this year, which probably too much given how he had last year. But my take on it is that the Phillies should have non-tendered him, but he was worth something. They should have given him like a 1 year, $8 million deal instead of giving $10 million to Max Kepler. We needed a right-handed bat that could play the outfield. Max Kepler, from the start, was a weird fit, and Austin Hayes would have been much better. I know that the offseason outfielders were bad, but the Max Kepler thing, signing a lefty, will never make sense to me.
And I guess we were just hunting after like a 1 year fill gap spot, because I really thought we could have signed Tyler O'Neill. I didn't think he signed for that much. I think it was like 3 years, 45 million. To me, I mean, I know he's been bad and he's been hurt this year. So like looking back at it now, I don't think that would have been a great signing. But at the time, I thought Tyler O'Neill was probably a really good right-handed bat with good splits. I don't really know what going after Max Kepler was doing. He was an already aging left fielder who didn't have great stats already, and I don't know why we were just looking at him and thinking, oh, he's going to happen to turn it around with us. Like he didn't really fit a positional need for us as a left-handed hitter. He was not recently that good of a hitter. And it just felt like that this was a very, very much like the Whit Merrifield signing. This was trying to give the fans something when we were really unwilling to actually try to pay up and get someone who'd actually fit the need that we needed in our spot at left field.
Yeah, no, I mean, it feels like every offseason, Dave Dombrowski kind of takes the strategy of picking up a couple guys that are broken or had like a bad year last year, and I mean, we can fix them, and it feels like they never actually get fixed. And Tyler O'Neill, he signed to a 2 year, $33 million contract, but he can opt out after this year, which he will not do. Actually, a 3 year deal. That was a 3 year deal for $47.5 million, and he can opt out after this year. He's not going to do that. So yeah, 3 years, 49.5 million. That's a pretty good payday for him.
For sure. And I guess the other guy that we did similar to the Max Kepler contract, who I actually was a huge defender of him at the beginning, but it's really gone downhill and has not been a great contract for us. I think you know who I'm going to say.
Jordan Romano.
Jordan Romano. I really don't know how he's been so terrible with us. Like, at first, it just seemed like it was a velocity issue. And then it seemed like he kind of fixed himself. And then it just kind of spiraled downhill again. And not only has he not been a closer, it's like he really hasn't done anything for this team. And I really just don't know. Like, to me, it's just such a Phillies signing to get someone who has basically came off of the worst year in his career and his value is at an all-time low instead of actually trying to go and get someone who could actually help this team. Like, I don't think Romano was a bad signing, but replacing both Estevez and Hoffman with only Romano was to me not the move. It's like you can't take two guys and hope that Romano's going to fill both of their shoes. Even if he was excellent, you're still missing Estevez or you're still missing Hoffman. They were both very good for us last year, and we decided to just replace them with one guy coming off of the worst season of his career. Like, that's a move to me that doesn't really make sense at all.
No, that's a great call, and I brought this up in an earlier episode of the podcast, but here's Romano's ERA by month. March, his ERA was 9, but that was only 2 appearances. April, 12.96. May, had a good month, 2.53 in May. June, 7.27. July, 5.87. So really, we've only had one good month out of Jordan Romano, and I question how long he's going to stick with the Phillies for. I feel like that could be coming to an end shortly.
For sure. And I think right now he's kind of fine doing what he does. Is just kind of a guy who comes in early, pitches an inning or so here or there. Like, he's not going to be a late guy, especially with how he's pitching right now. I don't think he really hurts the team, but he's definitely not being the value back end guy that we need. Hopefully David Robertson will fill that gap some. Our recent signing, I really like the signing of David Robertson. It was expensive, but I think that we badly need bullpen help right now. I still think it would be nice if we could go out during the trade deadline and get one more guy, but Romano has absolutely not panned out. So I think that hopefully we're going to be able to fill the holes of Hoffman and Estevez sooner than later, because I think that that's definitely an issue for this team, especially since we're going to be missing Jose Alvarado right now and in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. Every year it feels like the Phillies have to make these bullpen acquisitions at the trade deadline, which is frustrating because instead of giving up prospect capital, you could just give up money in the offseason, and I would much rather do that. You're taking on these contracts, at the end of July anyways, but I don't know. That's just me. So let's look ahead to the series where the Phillies are going to Chicago for the second time this year, but this time playing the White Sox from the South Side. And coming up, you got a Monday through Wednesday series. Christopher Sanchez is going against Davis Martin on Monday. Davis Martin's had a pretty good year, ERA just below 4. On Tuesday, Jesus Luzardo going against Jonathan Cannon. Should be a win, but you never know with Luzardo. And then Wednesday, you got Taijuan Walker against Adrian Hauser, who's been pretty good this year with a 2.10 ERA for the White Sox. So what's your take coming up on this series?
I really think that this is going to be a 2-1 series. I feel like we should sweep the White Sox, but knowing the Phillies, I feel like we're probably going to lose one game. I doubt it's going to be Sanchez because Sanchez is just so consistent. He goes along. I really don't think that the White Sox are going to be able to hold us from scoring more than whatever Sanchez allows. So I think that we'll probably win Sanchez's game. I don't know about Luzardo. Luzardo is really a very much a Jekyll and Hyde pitcher for us this year. Sometimes he has it, sometimes he doesn't. You don't really know what guy you're going to get. So that one's a little bit of a question mark for me. But I'm really not that worried about this series. The White Sox are one of the worst teams in baseball, even if they've had a decent streak recently. So, I mean, to me, this is pretty much like there's no way we're losing this series. It's pretty much 2-1 or sweep. So hopefully we get out on the good end, and hopefully Luzardo and Walker both turn in good games, and we're able to come out on top of the series.
I'm with you. I feel like we're going to get a win games 1 and 2 and lose game 3. And one thing that is interesting is that the Mets are staying on the West Coast, so take advantage of them going against a better team in the Padres. And what are probably going to be all 3 night games over there in San Diego. And I'm going to call my shot. I'm going to call my shot right now. Phillies are in Chicago playing the White Sox. Luis Robert, prior to the game on Wednesday, is getting traded to the Phillies. And he's going to be able to play in the game Wednesday. The trade's going to be finalized, and he'll be good to show on that Phillies uniform on Wednesday afternoon in Chicago.
I hear a bit that the trade talks with Robert are really heating up. So Again, I don't think he's my number one. I don't think he's my number one outfield bat that I would like to get because I think that that would be Taylor Ward. But I think Robert's a guy who has tremendous upside. I mean, he's been insane in the past. 2 years ago, we would have been ecstatic to get Robert. He was probably one of the top 10 hitters in the league. He was fast, he was elite defense, he hit for power, he hit for average. So if we can even get like a fraction of what he used to be, and on top of the defense and him being a righty bat with pretty good splits against left-handed pitching, if the price is fair, I think this is a really good time to acquire Luis Robert. I don't think he should cost a whole bunch, even though I feel like that the White Sox might be asking more than what he's worth. So I think that will be interesting to monitor. I do think that there's a good chance that we do end up trading for Luis Robert.
Yeah, that price is going to have to come down. I mean, the White Sox at this point, they've run out of rope. Their leverage is gone. He has a $20 million option for next year that nobody's picking up. So they either can, let him go, and he's not even worth the qualifying offer, so they'll get literally nothing for him. Or you trade him, and at least you get something, even if it's not much. So be patient, and that price will go down. So that's all that I had for today, Owen. Is there anything else that you had for the episode?
Just to add on Luis Robert is that he did miss the last two games, but he played today, which I think is the fact that he's staying not injured and that he's staying healthy and playing does increase the chances that he will be traded. And that was something that I have been closely monitoring with him because it would really stink if we weren't able to get him due to the fact that he got a phantom 10 game IL stint, and then that could really mess up our chances of actually acquiring a pretty good deal on a right-handed bat in this offseason for sure.
Yeah, he actually was hit by a pitch today, and he got X-rays on his right forearm, but X-rays were negative, so not a big deal there. So maybe he's injury prone, but that's okay. It's just a rental. So thank you so much for being on the episode, Owen, and I'm really glad to add you to our mod team on Discord and Reddit.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Owen, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode. We will be back on Tuesday with a trade deadline preview. So looking ahead to this week, we're going to have that episode of a preview of the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. Come Thursday, we're going to have a trade deadline immediate reaction. Wednesday, I guess, we're also going to be having a series recap of what happened in Chicago. So get ready for 3 episodes coming up here in the next week. A lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm excited to have you all for the ride. So thank you all for listening, and I'll be sure to be back soon, and I'll see you then.